Hey guys, this is Jay Calderon, Jay Unboxing, here with a fight preview for Subriel Matias versus Jeremias Ponce. And of course, a little bit of fight info here. We have Matias versus Ponce. This will be taking place at the ARMORY in Minneapolis, Minnesota, airing live on Showtime with the vacant IBF Junior Welterweight title on the line. And of course, before I get into my initial thoughts on this one, I'd love to hear what you guys think of this fight down in the comments section below. Just kind of your thoughts, your picks, your bets. What do you think this fight will produce? How well do you think it goes? All that kind of stuff. Would love it if you could leave all that stuff down in the comments section below. As it pertains to my initial thoughts here, I kind of wonder, the first thing I thought when I heard about this fight was it was a very good one, but I also wondered who can take the other's power better. You know, at first glance, you look at Matias here and you think, well, he has a basically perfect knockout record in the sense that he's at least stopped everyone he's faced. Yes, he has the one loss, but he avenged it via stoppage, so he certainly can crack. On the other hand, when you look at Ponce's record, it's not as though he's a slouch in the power department either. In most fights, I'd be willing to bet that he probably has a better KO percentage than his opponent. He happens to be going up against someone who can really bang. But in general, that really doesn't matter. It actually doesn't necessarily matter who punches harder. What matters is who can take the other's punch better. That ultimately decides a fight, especially if it ends up becoming something of a shootout. So that's certainly the initial thought that I had going into this fight. I also wondered, should the odds be this wide? I mean, again, I understand that Matias is going to be the favorite, but he's coming in at a minus 500 with Ponce coming in at a plus 350. When you have two fighters, that can crack a little bit, and one of them's unbeaten, and the other has had a loss. I'm not saying that it was a perfect loss, he should have had it, whatever. My point being, fights have slipped away from him, let's just put it. It leaves question marks about those kind of fighters, and to be this much of a favorite against an undefeated fighter was at the very least curious to me. Again, might prove to be totally perfect on the night, and there's a reason why he is such a heavy favorite, but certainly was an initial thought that I had. And of course, when you have two fighters that can bang a little bit like this, sure, or at least not my reaction to that is it going to be a Fight of the Year candidate? I think that we've had some pretty decent installments of Fight of the Year candidates thus far, being less than 2 full months into the year, but certainly a fight that could definitely go in there if they happen to get to each other the way that many expect them to in this fight. And in terms of what's at stake here, obviously it's the gold. It's vacant. It's literally up for grabs for both men. But it's also what that represents, all of the opportunities. Again, these are not big name fighters. Matias has something of a kind of underground following because of that knockout record, because of that ability to basically put everyone down or away. But for the most part, they're not giant names. And again, they're certainly fighters that are looking to build up here, and a win would definitely push them in that direction. But without the win, there really is going to be a struggle for them to kind of, get back in line, so to speak, in this very talented division of 140 pounds. So there's certainly a lot of opportunity, you would say, that is definitely on the line here. It also gives Matias a chance to kind of put that loss of his a little bit even further behind him. Again, he's already avenged it, and this fight is technically unrelated. But if you can knock off another unbeaten fighter and really put your foot forward as a champion again, it really does kind of bury that loss a lot more, and just allows for you to push forward with more confidence and more of that kind of mystique that you're garnering right now because of that punch power that you have. And this is kind of, for both men, a big chance to be pushed on that big stage. You can pull this win off. It gives you an opportunity to really begin to establish yourself in the sport. Again, a loss in such a stacked division with many people from 135 coming up to 140 in the not too distant future, you're really going to have a hard time rebuilding against a lot of killers here. So you definitely want to strike while the iron's hot here in a fight for a vacant title. And as it pertains to the winner, I think for the winner here, especially if you look at like Matias, for example, it continues to build some of that cult-like following that he has. Again, he is building a bit of an alliance, so to speak, with fans in the underground world of boxing, meaning that there are people who just like him as their sort of secret favorite fighter. Him becoming a champion on a bigger stage at a main event on Showtime, that's important. That builds a buzz. That gets him some of those big fights at 140 pounds. And if he can do it convincingly and in a solid fashion, that's all going to obviously be all the better. For Ponce, it's the chance, of course, to win the gold and to kind of stay undefeated, but you're also beating sort of that quote-unquote boogeyman of 140 pounds. Some might argue that's Regis Prograis at this point, but either way, this is certainly you knocking off one of the biggest threats, staying unbeaten, staying perfect in terms of your record, and then continuing to build your own stature. So they both certainly have a lot that they can obtain from winning this fight, of course. And having that kind of piece of the puzzle at 140 pounds, the more and more stacked it gets, as I mentioned, with people coming in, sticking around at 140 pounds, which was already pretty deep to begin with, it certainly allows for you to have more room at the negotiation table and to just kind of bring forth your best side as you're, building these big fights in the future. And for the loser, it's going to be a rough one again. It's kind of back of the line for either man. And that line is getting rather long. This is a very stacked division. You have Devin Haney likely to move up. You have Ryan Garcia likely to move up. You have Gervonta Davis, who will likely move up in the not too distant future. That's not to mention you have guys like Jose Ramirez still sticking around, Josh Taylor, Teofimo Lopez. You have Regis Prograis, as recently mentioned. You have so many names in this division. Not that I'm missing a couple of them here, by the way. You have so much talent at 140 pounds that losing this fight, when it's kind of the sort of breakout fight for whoever happens to win it, losing it really does put you at the back of the line to some degree, where now you're maybe taking fights that you wouldn't have otherwise in less than stellar circumstances, where maybe you're coming in as a clear B-side where you're expected to lose and really not being afforded the luxuries of a guy who has a bit more respect to him, unfortunately. That's just the business. It's unfortunate, but it does happen that way. If Matias is to lose this fight, of course, it takes a huge hit. Again, he has that mystique going for him now. He is that knockout artist, but it's his second loss now. He's only been around for 20 fights. It's not a particularly great look. And again, it's going to mean rebuilding for him at this point in his career, which I'm sure he's not looking to try and do right now. For Ponce, it'd be his first loss. Now, I'm not a particularly big believer in a single loss is going to be, the end of your career or anything like that. I certainly think that's complete nonsense, to be perfectly honest with you. However, it's not something I'm sure Ponce is looking forward to at this point, and it's certainly something he's trying to avoid by making sure he can establish himself in the biggest fight of his career. The issue here for him is that based upon the sort of fighter that Matias is and the power he has, this could be a bad loss. In against his toughest test, he could potentially be stopped, he could be hurt badly, whatever it might be. It's just not something, obviously, he should be looking for in this fight. I think I shouldn't have to say, but it's certainly something that he has to kind of be mindful of, and unfortunately, that's just the stakes you're kind of accepting at the top level of the sport. But in any event, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. How do you view this fight? Who do you think wins? Let me know down in the comments. Love to hear your thoughts on this one, of course. And of course, you can check out the link in the description box for my prediction to this fight between Matias and Ponce. I would love if you guys check that out as well. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Of course, you guys definitely have been recently. Love that you guys are doing that. Of course, follow me on Twitter at jcalderon_JOB. You can email me at junboxing@gmail.com. Would love to check out junboxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, news, ranking, all that good stuff. And as always, until next time.